to you from Israel and the Galilee on the 13th of July. It's Thursday, it's 5 to 11. I had an unusual amount of chores today. I'm going to get an air conditioning for the office being delivered in, could be in 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. When it comes, there will be an interruption in the broadcast while I go out to meet the guy and have him schlep it into the house. The high today is going to be 104 degrees, so you can imagine how miserable we are. The same tomorrow, similar Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So we're really in for it. The dogs are going crazy. It's just horrible living here. Okay. I know some of you think it's cool. And, you know, years ago it was kind of cool. It was sort of a different place to live, but it wasn't like this. This is just a miserable experience living here, you know. The weather was always bad, but it's just the other things that's really hot from here now. The other things are just terrible living here. This, you know, it's such a hard place to live, you know. I know some of you are having a hard time too, but you don't, maybe you should consider pleading with the Lord to shorten the time or make things speed up. Maybe that's what he wants. I don't know. But I certainly do that. I plead with him, and I suggest you do too. The S-bots, their goose is already cooked. They're not gonna, I mean, I don't see any repentance coming from them. Let the wicked be wicked, you know. And while I could tell you it's possible that this is being done for testing us, I don't really have a firm scripture for that. In other words, the scripture says before the day of redemption and before the year of redemption, before the year of recompenses, there will be a severe testing. I have no scripture for that. No scripture. Could be the unclean spirits know this is it, or they suspect it, and they're just bearing down harder and harder on us. When you look at the economy and the wars and stuff like that, yes, I think that's what it is. And they would also know God has a time frame he has to stick to. Otherwise, he could be a liar. But what the heck is that time frame? I can't find it. Concretely, I can't. I don't think the unclean spirits can either. The Bible was not written for them. It was written for those with the guidance of the Holy Spirit. They don't have the guidance of the Holy Spirit. So it's not written for them. They can't discern it or understand it. You could sit there and teach to an S-bot all the prophecies and have them write them down and show it. They're still not going to understand it. What they're able to do is regurgitate what you told them, but they won't understand it. They won't be able to put the pieces together and see how everything fits in and all. They don't know that stuff. Nor will they ever. They're not going to wake up until it's too late. That's what I get out of the scriptures. Please pray for Yafa. She's acting weird. Because of the heat, she's been pushing out of her room into the house and running around the house peeing and pooping. I made sure she didn't stay out in the sun when it got hot today. I didn't yesterday either. For a little while it was in the 90s before I got them in, but I got them in earlier today. So please pray for Yafa to be in good health and good temperament. She's running around the house marking the house. The other dogs are pretty tolerant. Chief stays in. They know something's wrong because they detect it after we clean it up, but it's unbelievable how many times. I got up at 12:30. She came into my room and she was sleeping on the floor next to my bed. But that's bad because she could poop somewhere or pee. Anyway, that's not where she belongs, so she goes back into her room. Then about 5 o'clock she breaks out and I see a wet spot in the kitchen. I don't know if it was she was drinking some water or whatever happened, I don't know. So I'm mopping the house at 5 o'clock in the morning. Then I get back to sleep, and my wife wakes me up at 6 o'clock, and she broke out of the office again, and and there was more pee and poop. So she just, we got problems with that with Beulah. Beulah can climb over a 6-foot fence. She runs around outside, doesn't go anywhere, and then she comes up the back door and wants us to take her in. I think she does it just to make Mommy jealous, because Mommy cries. The other big dog cries when she goes out. And she misses her, and she worries about her, and she can't protect her, because she's not going to clear the fence. So that's what happens, and I think Beulah interprets it as Mommy crying out of jealousy. So she keeps doing it. She does it like 3-4 times a day. Now maybe the hot weather is making her crazy too. So please pray that the dogs would be happy, healthy, and whole, and be in a good mood and obedient. Please pray for that. And pray for me and my wife Rivka that we get through this and the air conditioners don't break and the electricity doesn't go out. We're going to have several days of this according to the weather service. But certainly pray that it doesn't last that long. I don't understand it myself. Things are so bad here in Israel that I don't understand why he's letting it happen. I am completely confused. Okay. I don't know. But you could ask him, and you could certainly pray. He's not going to ever mind you praying to him about anything, because it shows you submitted to him, you recognize him as God. All the good stuff is there. I mean, there are bad things you could pray, oh Lord, I pray for a good kilo of pure coke or heroin, that's of course idiotic, or I pray that I rob this bank and nothing happens to me, that's idiotic. But praying for him to shorten the time that we have to wait is not idiotic. And you could also pray, maybe he can't because of this time clock, but then you could ask him to make it easier for the believers. Don't just pray for yourself, pray for all the believers. And nothing's too hard for the Lord. He tells us that. So don't be afraid to pray for these things, and don't want to get yourself to stop and think about how he can do it. It's none of your business how he can do it. Let's put it that way. He can do it. Everything in this earth and this universe is built for him to be able to manipulate it as he wants to. How does he tell the end from the beginning? Maybe he time travels. Maybe, I don't think this time as we know it in heaven, just here. So he might be able to just jump in. I don't know. I don't know. He says he foreknew us, the believers. He knew us before. He knew us before this place was made, I believe. So there's predestination already. A few people, well, I think 2 different people, have written me saying you don't need a temple to follow the law, all you need is an altar. Is that a correct statement? It would be, but it's leaving things out. Okay? Like what? Well, you need the priesthood. And you need to have a place for the altar. We're not really supposed to just go smack altars up where we want to. God's supposed to show us where to put the altar. Okay? And so on a simplistic level, if you just had an altar, a correctly built brazen altar that was cleansed for 8 days. I did not. Um, the the altar went through a ritual cleansing for 8 days that the Levites, the priests, would do without an active set of Levites and priests. That wouldn't happen. So the answer is yes and no. Yes, on a simplistic level, absolutely right. Theoretically, on a theoretical plane, you could do all the sacrifices, offerings with an altar. But on a deeper look, what about the altar of incense? And on a better level, Moses and Aaron were meeting with the glory of God of Israel inside the tabernacle, so it would be nice to have that. I did say the altar of incense and the incense. That would be missing. And you need to know the place where it's going to be, where it should be. So, yes and no. On a theoretical basis, yes, you're correct. But you can't just say altar, you need the priesthood, an anointed priesthood, which is missing. Okay? It's missing. Could one Kohanim with the Holy Spirit do it? Yeah, but that's not really the way it works. I mean, Elijah did it. He could theoretically do it. Like he did, you can just build an altar out of stones that haven't been worked by man. And, yeah. But I mean, it's more elaborate than that, So, theoretically, the answer would be yeah, but that's not the best, and we'll have the best. We're supposed to be coming into the double blessing, not being stuck in punishment. Okay? So, yeah, theoretically, it could be that way, but, we see one of the two witnesses which is referred to as Elijah in Malachi 3, teaching the Levites and the Kohanim how to do the sacrifices and offerings. And the temple services, I would say. Remember, the Levites have singers, musicians with an anointing. It's quite a bit of stuff going on. It's not that simple. And they have the dross and the impurities burned out of themselves. And after that happens, then it says the offerings will be satisfactory to the Lord. And then the blessings of the Lord will come on Israel. But it's using the corporate body of Levites and Kohanim, not just a little altar and one guy or something like that, okay? Was Elijah bringing the blessings of the law on the house of Israel by what he did? No way. He just did a one-time thing. And he wasn't following all the different offerings that would be done each week. So, it's different. So, do our praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 There's no Messiah like Yeshua. Okay. let me go into the live stream and the chat and take a look around, make sure we got audio and picture and all the things that we need. And it looks like we do. Let's see if I can hear it. I can hear it. And let me do a little housekeeping. If I can do it back. Here we go. Okay. Do a little housekeeping here. Be very quick. And we need to talk a lot about China because I've got some pretty useful information for you about how absolutely busted out economically China is in a fairly bad shape. See, what would the church tell you in times like these? Oh, just grin and bear it, God's testing you, suck it up, put up with it. I'm saying, yeah, that's what we do, but we also can petition Him to make it easier on us to lighten our burden. They don't tell you that. They want you to keep suffering. Okay, I put up in the chat, I pinned, offering information from my GoFundMe campaign that's many years old up at the top of the chat. And it's also in the chat, highlighted in yellow. And I put my email address up in the chat too, which is also highlighted in yellow. And let me set it to all messages, and the other messages went away. No. Okay. Looking good. So I put a lot of this information up on Telegram this morning, and they're all YouTube videos from some fellow that has close ties with China. It's a possibility that he resides in China, but probably more likely does not reside in China, but used to, and has friends and relatives that live there that he can communicate with somehow safely. The Chinese textile industry giants are collapsing. They're not getting any foreign orders. This is the textile and the clothing industry. A big company, Dongguan Minkai Finishing and Dyeing Factory, 30 years old, is going down. So they're not getting any foreign orders and they're folding. In other words, they're caving in. Okay. Now the Chinese people are fighting back. The banks are expected to collapse soon. Hundreds of projects in China have stopped, and they're not repaying their loans. There's billions of dollars of commercial and residential buildings, high-rises, that aren't completed. They're just partially completed, and they just stopped. There's no one to move in, apparently, no foreigners. And they're not making the payments. It's possible that China will put them in jail, but not likely right now, apparently. This guy did an article on fake and toxic foods. There was a woman, she was going to market and she was buying squid. And the squid looked just like squid. So she started boiling water in a kettle and put the squid in there, which is, I suppose, how you cook squid. I guess you could fry it, cook it in oil, and I don't know. But she did it this way. And the squid just came apart in little pieces and then just went away. So she she didn't know what happened. The next day she goes back to the market, she buys more. What it was is she thought they were making the squid out of jellyfish, but apparently they were making it like with cornstarch and sugar and stuff. So they were making something that looked like squid that had no squid in it. Another video, the guy's supposed to be getting some kind of chicken meat. They take the chicken and they strip the meat off, and I guess they make chicken tenders and chicken burgers and stuff like that. And then they make this other dish, and it's breaded and fried, and it's supposed to be from the remnants of the chicken. It's supposed to be tasty. And a lot of young people buy it because it costs about $1, $1.50 for a meal of this stuff. So the guy started looking around inside it to see what he was getting, and he was finding rat heads, the skeletal structure from a rat. So they were obviously putting rats in the food. Now comes cooking oil. These videos are up on my Telegram. They're very recent, like 2-3 weeks ago. This it's a video of a woman going to a sewer in the street with a ladle, a big ladle like this, and scooping oil out of the sewer. So people in the cooking oil in the sewer. So people threw this oil away, and it's in the sewer, and she's taking it back. She sends it to a special plant that reprocesses the oil for future use, and it's legal. It's hard to imagine this going on. It's basically toxic waste. The woman is sitting there saying, "No, I'm allowed to do this, go tell the police." But apparently she wasn't. There's a video that reads like this: civil servants are crying no pay for 9 months in China. How are they living? Many are forced to buy valueless bonds. Yeah, I'll tell you, you work for the federal government, I did years ago, and you try not buying bonds. They won't talk to you. You gotta buy savings bonds. Now this one will take the cake. Guys, if people are buying cars in China and the dealer gives them a fire extinguisher, and people buy fire extinguishers. And these fire extinguishers don't extinguish fires. They're phony. One of them took it apart, and you know how they have a pressure gauge, a little round thing, and you have a needle indicator if it's in the green zone or the red zone. If it's in the red zone, you don't have enough pressure in your fire extinguisher, you got to get another one or something, right? So he took the pressure indicator off, and where you screwed it into was solid metal. It didn't go into the fire extinguisher at all, so it was just a joke. So there's videos of them lighting a small fire with typical garbage. So people have fire extinguishers that don't work. Some of them, nothing happens when you squeeze it. The valve for the pressure indicator was in a solid piece of metal, so there was no way it was getting any pressure signal. And others, the stuff comes out of the fire extinguisher that doesn't put a fire out. And in others, nothing comes out of the fire extinguisher, a little sizzle, and it drips out. This is pretty sick, right? Electronic vehicles. China has 1.06 million, in other words, slightly over 1 million electronic vehicles just parked in empty lots, just sitting there. There's been bank failures there. They're freezing deposits, forcing desperate account holders to fight back. So people are demonstrating and trying to fight back against the banks. Now, they're saying 13,500 millionaires and billionaires have fled China or are expected to flee China this year, 2023, taking 48 billion away. So that's also hurting China. So apparently they let these wealthy oligarch type people travel around freely, and they just take off and they don't come back. I would have thought China would clamp down on that, but they probably need to be traveling to conduct commerce and stuff. So anyway, they're apparently getting their money out too. They're counting regular people, not just the rich, regular people. They're expecting 90 million to leave the country during 2023, 90 million. They don't seem to care because they don't have the food. They took surveys, however good the surveys are, I don't know, and they're saying only 1% of the Chinese people would want to join the battle to fight Taiwan. The other 99% want to do what's called lay flat, which is not fight. %, 5-5. China's immense. And this is a big war drum. They're economically a mess. Now, I've watched videos that I discussed the other day about people living in Russia talking about the economy and what the sanctions have done. So what China did is they cooked up a consortium of other losers in the greatest scheme of things on the world stage. So they formed BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now, India is not so much a bunch of losers, but India has a tremendous set of problems like China. They have terrible living conditions for probably hundreds of millions of people. They tend to follow a caste system. Now, you got Muslims in there that probably don't follow a caste system, but you got some Hindus that do, and then I guess you have some amount of Christians, not a lot, and then you probably have atheists, and who knows what else over there. So India is not any great financial, great country, but they've collected, China and Russia have collected Brazil, which is not doing that great, and South Africa, which is in the toilet. And then they're collecting the other loser countries and intending to bring them into BRICS. BRICS, it seems to me, will eventually go to enforcement, which means it'll be a NATO type country. India tends to want to be everybody's friend and just take what looks like it'll be economically good. Now, what could China get? Well, Taiwan has a good economy, and it has a lot of factories that, including the world's largest computer chip manufacturing company and other companies, many of them, are in Taiwan, probably a couple thousand. And they want to get their hands on that. If they could take out Taiwan, just the government and the military and the police, and leave the factories intact, then they would become their factories. And help with the economy. Now, Japan is going to definitely go after them if they try that. So China has to be looking at doing a similar thing to Japan. Remember, they're probably operating under a delusion, the Chinese. And then, how would they play it? Well, one way is, oh, look at all these countries, what they're doing to us. America or American allies, they're suppressing us, they're ruining our economy, they want to destroy us, they want to starve us to death, we've got to kill them, we've got to go fight them, this kind of thing. So they want to get Japan if they can too. What does Japan have? My gosh, what does Japan not have? You've got electrical appliances, you've got automobiles, trucks, buses. Now comes South Korea. Now, China will use North Korea to knock over South Korea. North Korea is not refined enough to do it and keep the factories standing. They'd have to be salvaged, maybe, I don't know. But they have so many great factories and things over there. They got Hyundai, Kia, LG, Samsung, many things. They make weapons there, so much. Now, America put 4 bases in the Philippines. So I think we could forget about China trying to make a simple maneuver and take over the Philippines. China might be looking at doing things similar to what Japan did in World War II, taking over these Pacific islands. And there's my little girl. Taking over these islands. Let me see my little girl. Say hello. Taking over, she has no concept of internet, being on camera. And taking over these little islands and okay, you gotta go down, huh? Taking over these islands and setting up the military there and dominating the Pacific, and they did do that the early years of the war, and they dominated the naval scenario. I gotta be back on it. Something from the office. No, stay here. Don't go out. Really stay here. Don't go out. Okay, you gotta move, let me in. You gotta move. Okay, so the Chinese and the Russians are trying to save themselves with this BRICS. Do I think it'll work? No. Because it's too convoluted and stupid. Let me explain. They want to have a gold-backed trading currency, so they can conduct commerce amongst themselves and send wire transfers to each other using the special fiber optic system they're also setting up at the same time. So they can avoid using the SWIFT system. But to make it gold back, the gold has to be someplace. So you're going to trust South Africa to say, yeah, we got 2 metric tons of gold stored in a special vault just for this. How do you know that they do? Oh, you go inspect it. Okay. How do you know after the inspectors leave, they don't go sell the gold? You don't. So how are they going to do this? We don't know. But the intelligent way would be to have the gold sitting in a vault someplace. All right. Hold on, Yaffa just jailbroke. I think she got out when I went out. I don't know. She's got some ticks, I know. I just took care of a few. I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to pay her for it. No more jailbreaking, Yaffa. Come on. Be a good girl. Move over, Chief. Come on. You're right back here. I just told you to move. Okay. So, who's going to trust China? I mean, a country's going to come along and China's going to say, we got, 17 million metric tons of gold, and who's going to believe them? So they're going to go ahead and issue tons of currency that may not be gold-backed, or may. Just like the squid, made out of sugar and starch. Just like the banks closing. Just like the cooking oil. They got artificial eggs. People go to restaurants, they bring their own eggs with them to China to give to the restaurant to cook. Because they have like eggs that look like eggs and feel like eggs, but there's no egg in it. That's one reason why they probably don't care about 90 million people leaving. It's 90 million less people to feed. Remember what happens if you can't feed the people after not eating for maybe 7 to 20 days. Most of the people are going to die. But on the way out, they're going to riot and protest like crazy, and they're going to possibly rob and steal from each other, and they're going to ransack the government storehouses if there are any, and any warehouses and military. So what China would have to do is machine gun them in the street. That's their mentality. They did that in Tiananmen Square. They just send the tanks and armored cars out. Just people don't go home and die quietly in their house. They get machine gunned in the street, and they probably leave the bodies there to set an example. So you got to understand the mentality of what you're dealing with China. Okay? It would make Adolf Hitler seem mild, Stalin seem mild. No, maybe not Stalin. Stalin was up there with them. But they're pretty severely sick people. And they don't respect human life one iota. So their system is breaking down. They ticked off America a few years ago. What did America do? Okay, go back. Sam Walton, Walmart, right? Okay, what should have happened in America is they should have boycotted Walmart, moved into these communities of, 40,000, 80,000. They opened up regular Walmart stores, and everyone went there. Wow, look, I can get these blue jeans cheap. I can get this cheap. That everything in there was cheap. No, there were other stores that had everything cheap that weren't like Walmart, like TJ Maxx. They were buying seconds, rejects, returns from big companies, right? Extra goods they couldn't sell, or last year's stale, or fashion, or color, or this and that, and they were selling this stuff, right? And they would sell it cheap. But they're buying from American companies and stuff like that. That's not what Walmart was doing. She's out? I can't. I just wedged. I have to get some other things to keep this thing closed. I'll be right back. Oh, I see how she did it. Come on. What are you doing, Yaka? You can't keep doing this. Come on, you're not acting right. It's probably the weather. You gotta get back in here. Okay, and stop doing this. I can't chase you every 2 minutes, okay? You can live outside in the heat, but you won't make it. You'll die. I don't think you want to do that. Well, you see what kind of problems I got with Yafa. Please pray. She's not right. She has some ticks on her, and I gotta put her in a bath today. And, so anyway, there's an opportunity for China to lie. They tell the other countries, deposit your gold here with us in China. That's the safest place. It is, out of all of them. And China might rip the gold off too, you don't know that. And China can lie about how much gold they have, issue more currency than they're supposed to, and they could start trading, getting food and supplies in. Or if they were to play honestly, which I doubt, they would be able to take their gold stockpiles, which are extensive, and keep them, put them to good use, and use them to back a currency with which they could buy goods. But they need to have light at the end of the tunnel, and that light at the end of the tunnel is war. So they've got, the United States may have pulled them into a trick bag. So Walmart was buying tons of stuff from China. And Walmart took off. And what they did, what the experts did, is they ground the small businessman out of business. The small businessman could no longer own a nice, honest living and work hard in his business. Walmart put the drugstores out of business, the photo shops, the food sellers, the tires, auto parts, tools, clothing, you name it. There's toys, everything. Electronics, light bulbs, they put everything out of business. So all the little guys folded because they couldn't bring container loads of goods in from China like Walmart. So Walmart got China sucked in, and then along came the other discounters that were similar to Walmart, and China was pumping goods into America like it was going out of style. And it was bankrupting or putting out of business people in America. The neighborhood pharmacist, I remember the neighborhood pharmacist, you'd be able to go in and talk to him. His name was Mr. Katz. He was a really nice guy. If you needed to ask him questions, he'd talk to you, you know. You think the Walmart pharmacist is going to talk to you? You know, he's gone. You know, these guys folded. The little grocery stores folded to a large extent. The little clothing stores don't do well anymore. You know, it's over for them. They're gone. And Walmart did it, and the people didn't see it coming. So America managed to put the little guys out of business, so the experts that own and run the big companies would control more and more. They try to set the example that everything is about money. And they want to show that if you serve them, you're going to have money, and if you don't serve them, you're not. So in the 70s, I guess, when Walmart was growing, the late 60s, 70s, they started putting them out of business, and then by the 80s, they were gone. You know, but I remember life was, you had, you know, Ben's hardware store in the neighborhood, you had Alinsky's supermarket, which was maybe a 5,000 square foot shopping area, or maybe 4,000. It was not a big supermarket. We didn't have any big supermarkets. They had another one, I forgot the name of it. It was again about 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. And in there they had a fruit section, a vegetable section, a meat section, dry goods like, you know, cereals and cookies, and they had breads, and a little bakery area. And you had canned goods, and, you know, this kind of thing. They had a little of everything. I don't think they were able to sell liquor. I think they might have been able to sell beer. I don't remember. They're definitely not liquor. Not in New York. And they really didn't sell any prepared food like barbecue chicken or rotisserie chicken. They didn't have any other hot dogs, pizza rolls. That didn't exist. And then you had little hardware stores. You had small clothing stores. They were gone. You know, they had a guy, his name was Paul. He sold Keds and Converse sneakers, and he had Lee and Levi and Wrangler jeans, and he sold sweatshirts, and that was about it, I think. And, you know, me and many of the kids would go there. He was in the neighborhood when we needed a pair of pants. Our mother would, you know, pants were probably $5 back then, $4, $5, $6. Our mothers would give us money, and we'd go over there, and they made sure to tell us to try the pants on. So they had he had a little space behind a wall of goods. You'd go in there and take your pants off and put his on it. If they looked good, you bought them. If they didn't, you said they're too big or they're too tight, and he gave you another size. The same with shoes, with the sneakers. He didn't sell shoes, he sold the sneakers. Then you had a sporting goods store. If you needed a baseball glove, a baseball, a softball, a basketball, a bat, fishing stuff, because you were going to the Catskill Mountains on the vacation, you wanted to go fishing. He sold hunting. It was pre-68, so you had no gun control, so you were able to buy rifles, not pistols. He had rifles and ammo, and he had hunting clothing, hunting boots. Nobody played soccer. I don't know if he ever had a soccer ball, and I never saw it. Volleyballs they had. Ping pong equipment, darts. That's about it. He wasn't a great source to go get, like, if you just wanted a baseball, you basically would buy a Spalding or a Rawlings baseball. The same with the softball. They had, for playing on concrete schoolyards, they had softballs that were made out of rubber, so the hide wouldn't wear off, and they had similar ones for baseball. For that kind of stuff, you know, but for baseball gloves and things like that, you wanted to go to a bigger store, like in a big shopping area like Fordham Road, where they had a lot of different baseball mitts or gloves. You had Rawlings to me was the best. Spalding's was almost or wasn't equal to him. And then you had Wilson, which was a kind of a step down, I think. And then you had basketballs, and they had leather basketballs, which were used for indoor playing, that were made out of leather, so you were playing on a wood floor. But you didn't want to use that on a concrete. We were mostly playing on concrete. And the baseball bats were wood back then. We didn't have any metal bats. So they had Louisville Slugger was the big one. And they were wood bats, and they had different lengths and weights. And they had softball bats, which were thicker slightly than the baseball. And, you know, Rawlings, I think, and Spalding made bats too, but Louisville Slugger was the dominant baseball bat company. And handball was big in New York. They played handball, little black balls. And then they had pink balls you played with also. And then with the black ball, you had to wear gloves. So they had handball gloves, and they had special handball sneakers that were black. And Keds made them, and they had a smooth sole with gum rubber that would last quite a while. And they had a rubber bumper on the front of it, a black rubber bumper. And what the kids did when they wore out is they went to this one shoemaker in the neighborhood that would vulcanize a piece of a tire, rubber from the tire, onto the sole of the shoe and make another bumper of that, because that would last all season at least. You wouldn't wear a hole through the rubber from the tire. And that's how the kid, because the handball, you're dragging your feet and pivoting, and it wears the shoes out. So if you buy the Keds handball shoes, you'd be lucky to get 6 or 8 weeks out of them. You might make the whole summer, depending how much you play. So some guys were really avid with handball, some were really into basketball. go to the schoolyard and just shoot hoops by themselves. Sometimes we'd get baseball and softball games going. Then we played stickball. We used a broomstick and a pink ball and pitch, and the guy would hit, and they had bases. And they had different ways of playing it. You had a game called Off the Stoop, where you threw the ball off of where the step had the sharp edge. You bounced the curve, usually you bounced it off of that. Then we used to play baseball cards. We'd toss the cards up to the wall. Whoever got closest to the wall would win the other guy's cards. And then you had special shooter cards you made with tape that would get you closer to the wall easier. And you wouldn't lose that, you just give them another card. And we didn't have this in our neighborhood, but some of the bad kids would toss coins to see who got closer to the wall. That we didn't do, we just did the baseball cards. So, there was a different life. I'm talking America in the 1950s, in New York, it was safe. I was riding subways by myself all over New York City at 11 or 12 years old. Nothing ever happened. Probably 12. Wait a minute. Yeah, something like that. Probably 12. Or 11, 12. Probably 12. We'd get on the subway. We knew how to use the subways. We'd get on the subways and go all over the city. Or we'd get on buses, go all over the Bronx. There's all kinds of things you could do, but we used to hang around in the park by ourselves and play. Later on in the 60s, the mid-60s, or latter 60s, the park got dangerous, and so they sent the park people and they removed all the bushes and shrubbery, and they just made it naked and open so you could see everything. But it used to be like a real park with a lot of things growing and a lot of shaded areas, and we used to go and play around in there. Nothing ever happened to us. We had a schoolyard across the street from my house that we used to play in a lot. And then my parents used to ship me off to day camp in the summer. They didn't want me hanging around in the summer, although I wanted to, they didn't want me to. And it was annoying in the summer because the school across the street opened up some sort of camp in the summer. But the camp was not for people from our neighborhood. It was the people from the poor neighborhoods that were rough neighborhoods, and they couldn't have a camp in that neighborhood because it would be too rough. So they came and locked us out of our own schoolyard. And this probably didn't start until the 60s. This is when they started wanting to integrate minorities and poor people and people from high crime neighborhoods into the other neighborhoods. So they built a building around the 70s, early 69 or 70, they built a building in our neighborhood and moved people from some horrible drug-ridden place to that building. And they started introducing drugs and prostitution, breaking into cars, burglary. It was horrible. And that's what New York City was doing. And then it got worse and worse and worse. So you eventually had to leave New York City. So I think my parents stayed till 78. And then they went to Connecticut. They couldn't take it anymore. It was so bad. But in the 50s, it was sort of utopian. You had a big city, the weather was horrible, and you lived in a hole in the wall. But, you were in the Big Apple, and you had what to do. Me and a friend of mine moved into the Upper East Side of Manhattan. mid-70s, and we referred to it as blow it out because we knew Manhattan was going to be nothing left of it shortly. So we lived there for a while, and then I lived in the East Village, around 13th Street, really good area, and I lived over there for I think a summer, maybe I don't know, for quite a while. It was a lousy living situation, but anyway, it was interesting, you know. That was really the dying days of Manhattan, was in the mid-70s. It just had a slow death after that, and it's finally died. In the 80s, it was so bad that the prostitutes were walking around Manhattan topless. Female prostitutes, it was that bad. And then they cleaned it up and it got better, and now I don't think it's bad again, and probably worse. So anyway, this thing with BRICS may not work. Nobody seems to know what you got to do where you put the gold. I haven't been able to find that out yet. So when they have their introduction to BRICS next month in August, and it starts working, I think we'll find out where the gold is kept. Now, if they let the people keep the gold in their own country, they're idiots, because these little African countries and other trouble spots in different parts of the world are going to join BRICS if they let them in. And they're more than likely going to lie. They're run by dictators and criminals, and they're going to probably lie about how much gold they have, and the whole thing with BRICS will collapse, just being inundated with fraud. You know, all these countries are joining because they think they're going to get ahead by joining. And if they all start frauding it, it's over. So Russia and China, if they're controlling it, could sort of manufacture money out of thin air for gold they don't have and get away with it, and then sort of fix their economy by taking this gold-backed money where they don't have the backing for it. There's no gold there. It's just basically fiat money with a lie, and start buying food. And they could try to bootstrap their country and get it back and running, but it's not likely. So now I want to get you into this mode. Listen to me. It looks like China and Russia are going to attack America and NATO, with Iran and maybe Cuba and a couple other places, Belarus, you know, and that kind of things. North Korea, a collection of losers. And they may very well attack America and NATO. It's a possibility. America is not taking a posture of bringing the aircraft carriers into the Pacific and running it like that, because they're too vulnerable. So they're taking a posture of bringing a little bit of submarines there. Submarines are great for sinking other ships. They're so-so for launching missiles at land targets. They can do that, but they're not that good at it. Yeah, they can do it. They don't hold that many missiles. I think they could put 16 missile tubes on the deck, and then they could reload it I don't know how many times, once, twice. It's limited. And then the range of the missiles that are launched from submarines from under the water is also going to be limited. It's not going to be like a big, it's not going to be like a big Navy vessel. I'm trying to get the chat open here. Let me try a different way. See if this works. So Well, there's not much people coming into the live chat has moved. Something's not right. Hold on. They all start voting it's over. So Russia and China, they're controlling it. It's sort of. Well, I guess there's really nobody in the chat. Let me see if I can just go to all messages. Yeah. Okay. So we got a lot of motive for China and Russia, and they can attack America, and they could lose, and America could win. It's possible. That could happen. It looks to me like they'll attack America and lose, America and NATO and lose, but it could go the other way. Remember, this is end times. Remember Russia and Ukraine. What happened wasn't what people thought would happen, but it happened. So it could happen that China and Russia lose, and then the world is very resentful against America, and the daughter of Babylon scriptures in Jeremiah 50 and 51 start to come true by another bunch of people. So we don't know. The Lord's very not open about how this is really going to go down. So it looks like China and Russia will lose, but they could win and take out America, or America could take them out, and then some other countries will emerge and take out America. So it's very difficult to understand what all is really going to happen and when it's going to happen. It's really hard, because I don't know. And we just watch and wait, and that's another difficult thing we have to go through in these trying times. Times like this weren't the way they were. I mean, imagine people the way they grew up before 1948, no Israel. Well, everything was still the same. People grew up in a lot of small towns and cities and medium-sized cities and stuff like that, and their great-grandparents, their grandparents, their parents, they all grew up and raised their families there and died there, and they did that. And, some of them went to college and learned skills. A lot of them in these towns, there was large factories that made things. Sometimes it was bread, shirts, like Arrow shirts or something like that. This is before China, when people made things in America. They made furniture, like Thomasville furniture. They made silverware. They made cars. There was a lot of car companies that don't exist anymore. We had Rambler, we had Studebaker, we had many. You had Chrysler line, you had the Plymouth line, you had the Dodge line. General Motors had Chevrolet, Pontiac, Buick, Oldsmobile, and Cadillac. Ford and Mercury and Lincoln. Rambler, I don't remember much. It was American Motors, was Rambler. Studebaker, I don't remember very much about. And there was other cars, too, that they made in America. Edsel was in the 50s. That was short-lived. We had others, gosh, I can't remember. So in the 50s, people were really just beginning to use air travel. mostly just the rich were using it in the 20s and the 30s, and during the war wasn't, a lot of it was military, but there was still civilian, but mostly the wealthier. And then after World War II, it started trickling down to regular folk. But I remember many, many people would say, no, I was never on an airplane, I was never on an airplane. I remember the first time I went on a plane, I think it was 67. It was I didn't get scared per se, but I was stressed, You're up, 25, 30,000 feet, and you're looking out the window and you're looking inside the plane, and I said, wow, you do better just keeping your eyes inside the plane instead of looking out the window, And when you just look inside the plane, and you don't have much of this sensation of heights. I had a friend that was a pilot in the military, retired, and I knew him. He said he didn't get much of a sense of heights flying the plane, and I could actually see that. I don't enjoy roller coasters and things like that, grabbing air. I don't know. It doesn't interest me. I like the water slides that are enclosed. Those are kind of fun. It's similar to a roller coaster. But you don't see out, So, if China and Russia do nothing, they're going to economically bust. And America's going to have regime changes. And that's the long and the short and the tall of it, and they don't want to see that. And America does, because they're not listening to the great voice and the hammer of the whole earth. So, like I said, they could dominate America and NATO, or they could lose. Scripture delineates many of the wars against Israel, but not what the nations do. It delineates very little about the nations. It just says, like Jeremiah 30:11, they're going to get annihilated. The nations he scattered the Israelites into. And he says that the DOB, daughter of Babylon, will be destroyed. And Israel will conquer the nations and round about them on the right and the left. In Zechariah 12 and stuff like that. So we don't have a lot of insights into the foreign nations. Well, now my chat went away. I don't know to make it as YouTuber. It's challenging. So, basically that's what we got going on. I don't see anything much in the chat. Let's see. Russia and China could lose and try it another time. This is true. These wars can also be the fulfillment of Jeremiah 30:11, annihilating the nations that he scattered the Israelites into. It could also be that. Okay. So that's entirely possible. So, things are happening, and it's a little bit unclear as to what it is going to be. Okay, so I don't seem to have questions in the chat. I think there's more than 10 people in here. I think that the number of people in the chat is broken. And it's frozen, just like with my messages is broken. So that's what I think is going on. Let's see if I can unbreak it. Yafa, no, I'm not picking you up right now, okay? You're getting a bath in a little bit. Try top messages to see what happens. Nothing. I don't know, but it seems to me there's probably more than 10 people. I think the figure's just frozen. So I should be getting my air conditioner for the office today, and then I gotta have the guy come and hook it up, and that'll probably be next week, and then I can shut the door, and it'll be cool in here, and then I can shut the door with the dogs in here, and they'll be cool. I have air conditioning. And please pray that our weather gets better. So, I mean, this topic of China and Russia is huge. So, I mean, I keep covering it. I just think it's that important. So, yeah, Fee, honey, just stay down. I don't want to pick you up then. So, that's what we got going on. And so I can't really say. What it looks like to me is China and Russia will attack America and NATO at least. But again, it could be a fulfillment of Jeremiah 30:11. We are getting a lot of birth pains, so then they could be annihilated. It can go 6 ways, this way, 6 ways, this way. Well, you know, you don't know which way it's going to go. So we just got to wait and watch and see how this develops, because I'm not sure. Okay? And in Israel, it's still bad. The protesters are clamoring around, and the government is trying to suppress them and doing very badly, and they want to move with judicial, what they call reform, and the Attorney General and the Supreme Court are becoming a tiny bit more active, not much. And I don't know where we're headed with this, but we'll have to see. They're really getting worse. The protesters are getting more and more potent with their protests every day. So it's, you know, what we pick up in the media is not what the Israelis are seeing on Israeli TV. So that's really what's influencing them and each other themselves. They're influencing each other. So there's a lot of people that are apathetic and don't care. They're not involved with this. And there's other people that really don't want to see the protests, and others don't want to see the Netanyahu become the king or the dictator. The Hezbollah, I don't know what's happening. They tried to, they were going to knock the fence down between Lebanon and Israel 2 days ago, I think. And they had a team come there, and Israel attacked the team doing it with non-lethal weapons, but they did get hurt, but they didn't get shot and killed with regular bullets. So there's some injuries. If they could knock the fence down, then they could deploy hundreds of guys on motorcycles to try to come through on dirt bikes very quickly and invade our tanks, our drones, our helicopters, our armored personnel carriers, and get into Israel and start killing civilians. It didn't work. Okay, please, I'm Moshe, my wife is Rivka. Please pray for both of us, Moshe and Rivka. Pray for our peace, safety, protection, and joy. Pray for healing of our bodies, and pray for our finances, and pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole. And pray that Yafa gets better. She's got some kind of ticks on her that I can get rid of them, they go away. And pray she doesn't get reinfested. I got the collar on her for ticks and fleas, the good one. I don't understand that. I don't think Chief has any. I don't quite understand it. And I don't know how to get rid of them. You squeeze them and they burst, and I'm sure that makes them die. So I got to take care of her. But please pray for her, Yafa the dog. And pray for all the animals and pets that are all rescues to be happy, healthy, and whole. And pray for the peace of Yerushalayim. And thanks to those that are sending in the offerings. And I'll keep you guys posted. Things are rather tense because we got potential problems in Israel, and we got potential problems in Europe and NATO and the Pacific. It's just, it's just really boiling over, But it's kind of more like it's boiling. It's not boiling over yet. But we got to watch and see how much longer this will continue. So I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out. Thanks.